I'm ready to smash and burn.
No quarter. I am going to be uncomfortable and all over you from start to finish.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Outside of the Box. And this has been a highly requested episode for a while, and one that I've been wanting to do. In fact, I went all the way to Vegas just to ask Jake to be on the show. That was of course my one purpose for going, not anything else.
No, there's no other reason but to see me.
But welcome to the show, Jake.
Hey, hi, yeah. When she badgers you enough, you kind of have to, eventually go on her show. So she did it. She came out for the pit table and she did it all and threw her pitch. And I still tried, throwing her off the scent. But I mean, she had builders come after me and she was trying to personal message me. And I just go, yeah, I'm not going to look at that. No, let's keep going. And then she started emailing. I'm like, oh my God.
After a while, but no, I'm excited to have you on and kind of chat about World Championship 7, which has been a pretty crazy season so far. I'm sure it was funny because for a while there I was in question of like Hydra has to be coming back, because I know you kind of teased it for a while, and I'm like, is that gonna happen? And I'm like, no, of course.
We purposely had BattleBots not release our name just so that you get more talked about when you're not on the list at this point. So it was a little bit of mind games, yeah, but we still got talked about just as much. So it worked just the way we decided it should have. Yeah.
It sure did. But I was excited because I mean, like, whether fans like you or they don't like you, you certainly are one of the more entertaining people on BattleBots. So I think that
I bring out the best and the worst of both sides of that spectrum. Yeah, definitely. Which is good for the show at least. So it's fun sometimes playing the heel, and I just live for the booze and the crowd now. So I'm really working my my Ray Billings. I'm not quite up to his level yet, just because he had a bot that actually destroyed people, but we're getting there.
Yeah, I mean, Hydra does pretty good.
For being just a flipper, yeah, I would say it does really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's so funny though, because I always think back to, well, I mean, it was just this season, I think, when they were doing the show of the previous matches or whatever, and when you had the fight against Bronco, and they had interviewed your brother Reese, and he said, like, this is the match where Jake kind of got this ego for beating Bronco. Do you think is that where it started?
That whole season kind of did, yeah. I was always on the back burner on the team. I let the brothers drive, and they did Warrior Clan and Son of Whyachi and Falcon. So, I mean, I had my Falcon back in the day, back in like 04, 05, and 06 when we did the high school IQ events for BattleBots, and I won pretty much every championship there was in the BattleBots IQ stage. But after that, I kind of just went to the background, let them have their fun since they were all younger. I'm the oldest one out of all of them. So when Hydra came along, it was like, oh, I guess I'm next on the list. I'll get this one. And I don't know if it's just the way it was designed or me driving it or what it was. The luck of the chance that this bot is just super successful, but it's a match really, really made in heaven, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the best combinations, right? When the driver works really well with the robot, and I think that shows.
I would rather have a big spinning weapon on the front. It would be a lot easier to do things. I tell you that.
It probably would. I mean, is that ever a thought? And because I mean, people have certainly done that. Kraken added a vertical spinner this year. There's been different things that have happened. Have you ever thought of that, or are you just kind of sold on this?
Everybody's seen the huge attachment, right, with the big blade. We actually take fusions horizontal, put it inside the bot. There's been talk of making a smaller one just to sit where the flipper is, just so it's like, okay, you come up the flipper, instead of getting flipped, you're actually going to get hit this time. I think it would do a lot more damage and the fights would go a lot slower. I wouldn't have to win so many wedge engagement wars to actually knock somebody out. Now it's 20, 30 times I have to get underneath somebody in one match just to do anything. So, and they only got to win like once. So it's definitely an uphill battle for a flipper.
Right. Speaking of attachments though, I have to bring up something just because, so it's funny. Everybody, my opinion on it is a little bit different than maybe some other people's out there, because so, you know, this year we saw huge fight Blip.
You're
Yeah.
talking about this thing?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, we saw huge
Yeah.
fight Blip. And because of, you know, in the past, I was like, oh, I'm not sure, you know, what a flipper could do against huge, but they actually did, you know, a decent job aside from getting a blade right in their face. So
yeah, them
it's
having a wider flipper base and being a super tanky bot, they
right.
did an excellent job of, yeah, for sure. But that's the best you can do, right? You're still going to get walloped and still hit, and it's just not what Hydra was made for, I guess. Blip is a brick. It's a brick first, and then flipper second, even though the flipper is still really good. So it's definitely was made to be able to do better against a gangly bot like huge.
Maybe. I mean, you know, like I still think that you could have potentially gotten a couple of flips in if without that. I think you could have.
Looking back, yeah, possibly, but you don't risk what's working. And had I have flipped and then it went over top of the rack, then he starts ripping up things. So it's not good. And I mean, looking forward, we get to see, you know, a huge versus fusion fight coming up in a few weeks. So I mean,
Yeah.
that one's going to be a big one just in itself, because we finally get to put another horizontal against huge. That's kind of like their one thing that can really beat them.
Right. And well, and the fact is too, you know, what's really interesting is Fusion is looking good this season. I mean, it almost beat Witch Doctor.
Yeah, it was close. I mean, there's so much damage on Witch Doctor, and going through their post fight interviews and stuff, and watching the bot them taken apart. There was a lot more damage than we thought just from the wedge being ripped off the thing. But yeah, Fusion's a little tank when it can stay running, but the problem is staying running. So yeah, it's that it's not so much the speed controllers, I guess. This time we had the battery fire the first fight against emulsifier because they actually got into the batteries, and then the Witch Doctor fight, there was one speed controller on the vert. The horizontal was still technically working at the end, but he couldn't drive anywhere because one side drive was down, so he couldn't actually get it spun up again.
Yeah, yeah. But still, I mean, like, very impressive. Now, you know, I know you may not feel that way, but speaking of impressive, so for me, I really enjoyed Hydra's first fight against Rotator. You know, obviously I realized that, you know, Rotator wasn't at its best for that match, and that was really unfortunate.
Definitely not. Oh, it either Victor's really bad at driving or that bot was having problems. So I'll give it to the bot was probably having problems. Probably.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe. Victor is a good driver though. Sorry, Victor.
But I, you know, like I normally, you know, normally I guess being aggressive isn't Hydra style, right? And a lot of times you don't need to do that because people, even for some reason, even though they know that that flip might be coming, they still are aggressive towards you. So you just kind of have to let them do that.
We call it the Hydra hysteria. Once you get flipped, you end up just keep going back, because as soon as you get it, then it's like, oh, I'm down points. Now I got to start attacking more. And then they keep coming at the front, expecting a different thing. But sometimes they're like not afraid of the flipper, right? They just get flipped around and they expect to win one of these engagements. Sometimes you just don't, though, with the ground game that it is. But yeah, Hydra really can't be aggressive in a lot of fights because of the ground game. I just can't move around the box like everybody else can. But in the fight against the Tantrum, I put on a different wedge package, which allowed me to drive super fast. You've seen I actually got across the box before he did. But that ground game was nowhere near my standard package. So he won the ground game. And yeah, being a flipper, you just can't win that way.
So, I mean, is it then obviously then it's a matter of like sacrificing something, either you're making sure you have a really solid ground game or you sacrifice that for speed and
You
then,
can't do both. That's the
yeah.
problem. Yeah. And once somebody figures out that, then it's like, okay, now we can start winning. I mean, that's kind of what Bite Force had without everybody knowing Bite Force had that, is they had a really good ground game. So they didn't have the super powerful weapon and Endgame has. It was actually a little tiny chunker, really. But he consistently got underneath everybody and he never gave the front end away from everybody else. So that's why he could win so consistently, because he had the ground game. And then we came up and came with the new fingers, which is now the ultimate, because obviously Endgame and other people are starting to copy our Hydra forklets out front. And so that's the next bot we make is going to have to be able to beat that. So that's the new thing. Yeah, we got to beat our own front end.
Yeah, that's difficult. And I mean, because like I said, the thing is, like Hydra's always had, a really strong ground game. I think, a
The
lot of
first year
that.
wasn't great. That one wasn't great. But after that, it was definitely the thing to beat. It was the par. That was the bar to set for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, so many robots have had difficulty getting underneath. I mean, they've tried, but they're
Yeah.
not successful. And
Or
that's
getting around the side or any of that stuff. I mean, I can turn pretty quick. I mean, Claw Viper would actually be a really tough bot to, because he S-turns so quickly when he gets around bots. I mean, I don't think anybody could keep up. Even if you had a fast enough bot, you'd probably overturn and he'd just get you anyway. So that one would be an interesting fight this season, I think, if we got that one.
it would be. But I'm now looking at the schedule and being like, I wish I could see how that Hydra versus Claw Viper would go. It's not something I would have thought that I would have said, but I mean, there's a lot of surprising things happening this season, kind of unexpected things. But yeah, I mean, obviously in that rotator match, like Hydra was, way more aggressive than what I'm normally used to seeing.
Yep, we had the heavy wedge package on that we used in the Ribot fight, and I have 0 ground game at that point, so it's like I can drive all over the box then, which is good against big spinners because you don't really want them to spin up most times.
So is that kind of why though you went with that in that situation, because it was more of an advantage to make sure that he couldn't spin up?
Oh, absolutely. The only bot I would want to spin up would be Megabyte, just because it's a ring, and if I get underneath him, I can still flip anywhere on the ring because it's a solid unit. Anybody else, you really don't want to be able to flip, because flipping on the weapons, not really good for the flipper tip. Now we found that out pretty hard, but you have to be able to flip on it. You just have to throw your weapon into him no matter what. So if anybody comes in with that horizontal or undercutters, they know they're going to get at least one flipped on it.
Right, exactly. Now kind of going into things with that Tantrum fight, I mean, I would say that of any fight this season, there was the most buildup for that, I
And
think,
the most
of
letdown, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. No doubt. I cringed when I found out that I was the main event. It's like, oh, this sucks. Yeah.
Does it like put the extra pressure on because it's the main event?
Not while you're there and doing things, no. But watching it back on TV, and then you know that everybody's like excited, and then watching the hype panel, and it's like, wow, this sucks. You had 15 minutes of talking trash, and then you're gonna fail in like 20 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, did you? I mean, to me, I probably would have said that's not completely unexpected. But did you expect them to come with forks?
Oh, they always come with forks. Yeah, just the type of forks that they came with. I noticed watching it back that they actually drove backwards to the box, and I didn't notice that while I was there. Otherwise, I would have came at them a little bit differently. I tried to box rush them and get across there before they could come out of their square, but they had to drive backwards because they went super sharp and with a super amount of down pressure on the forks, and that was just enough to be able to get under us most times. We did have a couple of stalemates when I was going my usual slowness, but when I was going fast, I just jumped over top of them.
Yeah. And I'm curious too at the end there, because I think like a lot of people that were commenting were saying they thought that Hydra was stuck on something. I didn't think Hydra was
Oh yeah.
stuck. What were you?
Yeah.
Okay.
He tickled my bottom is what happened. And my bottom plate is an 040 thick piece of tie. And there was a nice perfect little coil underneath the backside middle of the bot that he had coiled up, and I was sitting on it. And yeah, it was wheels were all off the ground and can't move anywhere. So functionally the bot was good, but yeah, I was stuck on one little curl. The same way they won against Witch Doctor in the finals last season. Same thing, little curl, knocked out the drive wheel so they couldn't drive, that kind of thing. He did do one new thing though that we've never had. Is I was actually peeing after the match there with hydraulic fluid, because that little curl, my hydraulic manifold was right behind that, and he scraped just enough of one of the seals that the O-ring was exposed, and it was just giving a little fluid there. So we had a dripping bot the whole way back to the pits. So that was a new thing, I guess.
Is
But
that
yeah,
something that's
we
like fairly easy to take care of afterwards, or?
the hydraulic manifold we did have to switch out just because the plug, it was easier just to put the new manifold in that we have spares for. But the bottom pan I still left as is. We could have ran with it and cut it off, but now it's a nice souvenir. So eventually we might sell that bottom pan for some kind of money. We gotta make money somehow, right?
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, was it, in some ways, was it a relief for that to just be done and not have this like weight of this thing continue with you?
Oh, it didn't bother me. Not really. I liked that the crowd just went wild. It shows their passion for the sport. Now, going super negative against another team, not so great. But just their passion overall, they seen certain things, and there's nothing we can do about it now, or even then. I don't even think the appeals would have worked last season, for that matter. But yeah, it is what it is. It could have. I mean, I like to win. That'd be nice, right? But yeah,
Did
getting
you, were you
my butt
happy
stomped.
though? Were you happy though that like they, whether you were able to use it or not, obviously, but that they introduced that rule as an option for people that, didn't feel that a match was, decided fairly?
Uh it's just a waste of time, really. It's you don't get to see the scorecards beforehand, and you got to try to fight your way through, and the judges are going to see it the same way they seen it the first time usually. So I don't think it's going to help much, and I I mean, no spoilers, but I can't tell if they even if it was usable this year at all. If anybody actually used one and got anything done out of it. So it could be just we did something to make it look like we're doing something to change the rules or whatever it was. But BattleBots likes to do that, so.
Now, another thing that changed this year, so I'm curious to get your perspective on that, is that all of your matches ahead of time. So, you knew at the beginning of the season, obviously those two matches, but then you also knew that you would be fighting free shipping and then Sawblaze as the final match. What were your feelings on knowing those as future opponents, and like your feeling about how Hydra's chances were against those robots?
Chances wise, didn't think I had such a great shot at it, actually. Sawblaze and free shipping's always got good ground game between those two, and Tantrum is just Tantrum. Yeah, you know how that goes. And then Rotator, I mean, when it's working, is not good. For a matchup for me, not really. It's got wedge and it's got big plow on the front, but knowing the matches was great. It was perfect. You could actually get ready for certain bots ahead of time. You would know your general times. You knew you weren't going to get like thrown to the wolves, or you didn't. The biggest part, I guess, was you didn't think that BattleBots was messing with you. Say that you went out to a certain fight, and now, oh, you need a fight to win and get in. Oh, let's give you Rusty. Okay, they couldn't do that this year. So, and in that sense, it's like production isn't messing with the fight cards or whatever. They got it set beforehand, and there's no malarkey going into the round of 32 or anything. So they get their fan favorites into the matches.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, overall, like that was a big positive, not just for the builders, but for the fans. Like, you know what your matches
Hmm.
are going to be. You don't have to worry about any of that. And I think
Well, you get to
overall,
talk about it beforehand too. Like
right.
we can talk about it 8 weeks out now. It's like, hey, yeah, we're going against this one. You get more things going. Like the fight cards for the nights should almost be out. That way everybody knows the fight cards for the next 8 rounds. Obviously they can't do that because filming wise they're still putting the shows together, but it would be nice to be able to talk about certain things and look forward to upcoming weeks, which usually it's like, oh, you don't know anything until 2 days before the event when you're watching it, right? But now
Yeah.
it's like you can talk about it a few weeks ahead of time. You can get your watch parties set up, um, and it's just overall a lot nicer, lot less stressful. It feels like.
Right, right. Yeah, and I mean, from what I've heard, I think everybody felt that the matches that everyone was given were that everyone had a pretty decent challenge, where there wasn't, one bot that had like a really easy road or like, a really tough road for that particular bot, that it was just
You
kind of
you went
even.
with your certain classes.
Yeah.
They still have different classes of bots, and they have their list of these top tier bots, these guys, and then they kind of put them together, and they maybe mix you one better one and one less one. But for the most part, the top ranked bots get more better competition all the time. It's just how it has to be. Plus, they want to see certain, you know, they want to see their witch doctor versus everybody, right? So you gotta get them all against all the big names. So you don't get a Rusty versus a witch doctor anymore with this, which is a lot nicer because yeah, that one there, particular in years past, felt like malarkey just to give them a win to get in. But yeah, we'll get off.
Um, now, the obviously we have a lot of the rest of the season to go at this point. It seems like a longer season, but in ways I think that that's good because everybody gets 4 fights. You don't have some bots that have 2 fights, and it's a little bit more even that way.
Yeah, yeah. Good bots should get fights. Bad bots should sit out. That's what I feel. Getting bad fights and having to show them on TV is not good for TV. It's good for teams and their sponsors, but not good for TV overall. And there's a lot of fights that aren't up to par and should not be shown. In previous seasons, they would have been shown, but now because you get it this way and you're forced to get 4 fights, it hurts BattleBots because if a bot can't get going, they got a substitute, and then it messes with everything anyway. And they used to be able to cut out the 1 or 2 really bad fights from certain nights, and now they just can't. So you're stuck seeing that. So, and you see that on Reddit and all the other places too, that they're like, "Oh, this bot's bad." Well, usually you wouldn't even seen that bot, so that's why it's throwing some people to the wolves, I guess. But they get their TV time, then that's what some teams are there for. So
Do you think though that reducing the field to only 50 bots has made it so that, in general, the level of competition is higher, or do you think that that hasn't changed any of that?
the top tier teams are still there, and they're putting on a good show, and they still have the equivalent percentage of bots that are still under par for the competition that it is. A lot of these bots couldn't even take on ABC first season bots yet, so they're not up to par. But you can't get up to par unless you're in the competition. So I liked it when they had more, not necessarily for TV, but they got their time in the box yet. Not necessarily getting shown, but they got their practice and they can up their game. That way, when they get a bot that's ready to go, it's there. They can go into the show then and actually be like prepared and ready to go.
Do you think that this idea of doing the Destructathon like BattleBots is doing, which is in a way a potential like tryout for someone, that is kind of a way to look at some of these bots and say, hey, can they get up there with the big ones or not?
In a sense for competition, yes. Now, live shows, hardcore fans are not going to like the live show. That's just simple. It's not the quality of bot that you're wanting. You get your names in there and your Hypershock and your Wish Doctors, and they are good built bots yet, but they're so dialed back, and they have to be. Otherwise, they're getting repaired and fixed, and it's going to cost BattleBots tons of money to repair this. that they're probably starting to figure out that, wow, builders really do put a lot of time and cost into this thing. So I think on that front, I think they got a big eye opener in the first few weeks that they needed to spend a lot of money on this stuff, and they needed to dial all the weapons back to make it, it's like BattleBots, but it doesn't have the soul behind it. It doesn't have the drivers, the people you look forward to. You get to see bots run, but it's not the same thing. But I will be going there Thursday for some live show stuff with Hydra to do some exhibition matches, and I'll get to see firsthand actually how it rolls. So, and of course they're in the baby stages of live show too. They're still learning how to run all this stuff, so it could definitely get better. They get things dialed up. They get the bots more, bulletproofed, and then they can start really ramming, good shows through. And it's going to be questionable how sustained a live show BattleBots can be, but if it does, it's going to help competition in general, because people will be able to go there, test out their bots in a real BattleBots, because that's the thing. You really can't test bots anywhere but the BattleBots arena, unless you have your own, which most people don't.
That is true. I mean, like, because honestly, I don't know this, but like, with the whole Whyachi, and you have like, your probably bigger setup. Do you have ways to test them that other people don't?
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
I figured.
that's personally why I like Hydra, because we can test it out in the open without an arena and not have to wreck anything. Now, Fusion and Son of Whyachi, whew, those are a little bit more scary. Yeah, we stand up on top of the 10-foot mezzanine above the shop, and we do the stuff on the ground with the plexiglass in between. So the shop is the now bulletproof Lexington glass. And the last time we did testing, we threw some wood chunks up to the lights in the 40-foot roof. So yeah, it's getting a little more dangerous. We don't have a full. I mean, we do have a full box. It's actually sitting out back. We used to have competitions at the shop, like 5 to 7 of them, I think. And it was the Whyachi House of Robotic Entertainment. So we did have actual BattleBots battles there, up to 120 pounds, and we built our own arena and stuff. We haven't done it in a long, long time, but it's a possibility that we could test in there. But we do have more fortunate circumstances than a lot of people building in their garages.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of neat, that you have the ability to do that. I mean, it had to be very interesting growing up in a household where, like, I mean, I'm sure you were probably doing a lot of this as a kid as well.
Since like 12 years old, 11, 12 years old, yeah, we've been living the BattleBots lifestyle. Yeah. Always going back, dumping money into bots that you probably shouldn't be doing anyway, and trying to further the design and make bots that are still competitive. That's the biggest thing, is seeing the bots from back in the day to now. It's just complete difference. There wouldn't be many bots that could compete from back in the day that would even touch these bots now. So it's definitely an improvement in the sport, I think. More dangerous for sure, especially seeing some of these other Facebook ads that I get from like India or other places where they're doing like tombstone style bots out in the middle of a crowd. Don't do that. These things are dangerous. But yeah, they some places just don't have common sense. I mean, speaking of common sense, they didn't have safety locks back in the old BattleBots. That wasn't a rule. So it's been ever evolving all the time. So yeah, the first Son of Whyachi didn't have a safety pin for the rotor. So actually, one time when we plugged it in, the rotor started spinning. So that's pretty fun. Yeah. And then from that on, safety locks on our bots at least.
Yeah, safety locks probably sound like a good idea. Yeah, so I mean, do you think then, like, as far as bots, back then, the reason why they're so much better now, is it more the materials, or is it like, what is there one thing specifically that you think makes them more dangerous today than it was?
There's probably 2 things. One, the electronics packages, going from brushed motors to brushless, saves a lot of weight, and the batteries. Both of those are huge space savings. So a lot of the bots just, we got battery. 10 pounds less batteries. Let's put 10 more armor on it. So that's one thing about the big weapons too. If you got a super destroying weapon, all it's going to introduce usually is more armor. At least that's what it was back in how many years ago. So that's why I kind of like when they limited the weapon size. That way you had more cool bots there with articulating arms and different things like that. But you can't do that anymore if you just want to be a solid brick. So at least Whiplash still has the articulating arm and a spinner. So it's still, it's got a cool factor to it.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's probably one of my favorite things about Whiplash specifically. But yeah, it's, there's definitely been quite a bit of innovation, and like we've talked about the ground game. I think that's really the big thing right now is everybody trying to get the best ground game. And the speed factor obviously too. That's kind of ramped up in recent times. I mean, obviously like I don't think a robot, well, obviously in past years, a robot like Claw Viper would have like beat someone like Ribot the way that they did. It's just
speed kills. It really does. Yeah. And when you're an armored brick like that, I mean, there's not a lot of things that can take you out besides somebody getting underneath you. And if you can't get underneath, then you can't do much. But yeah, the ground game really should be changed. There should be rules against it now. Just completely ban it. Outright. And if it's the only thing really that should be touching the ground is your weapon at this point. So a flipper and a flipper tongue could still be on the ground, but you can't just have little dinky forks out there. So even Hydra would have to change it at that point, and it would just have to go with something else. But just throwing random forks on that aren't powered at all, it's already been annoying, and it's just gonna get worse. Now, I mean, watching Endgame's first few fights, and it's like he doesn't move around the box nearly as fast as he used to, skirting around there and stuff. So it's like, yeah, something needs to change. And I think it's going to take BattleBots and an actual design rule to change that. But it's going to be a lot of people bucking the system because they want to be able to get underneath and do the forks and do all that stuff. But I think they should just abolish it and make a rule that just clean slates it so that there's nothing down there.
I mean, that's certainly interesting, and I know a lot of people have suggested that. I mean, part of me wonders, though, like you mentioned, Endgame, after what happened to them because of the forks, that, maybe some teams will start to question, well, if that could potentially happen to me, do I want to do that?
No, they're going to play the ground game because they know they have to win the ground game to win. So it's just going to get more dull fights is really what it's going to turn out to be. And if you got two really good teams that have low forks, you could have a fight that doesn't touch. They don't even touch at all or move around or do anything, and it's going to get to a point where it becomes just super lame, and it needs to be changed. And that's coming from the guy who has the ground game. So yeah,
that is true. True. I mean, we definitely want BattleBots to remain exciting. And so we'll see how that happens, going forward. Though I think we've had some exciting fights this season. I know from having been there are definitely some good ones to come.
there's a few. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few. But yeah, and then I would assume that at this point with World Championship 8, whenever that is, that you would plan on being there.
With Hydra, maybe not. No, little spoiler, maybe. Might be someplace out to pasture. I don't know. I'm really liking an egg beater though. I think that would be the cat's meow. Just having a kind of a, I don't know, a Riptide style bot. Just drive it forward and hit people and just be done with it. It'd be really nice to have.
It seems to be effective. So
yeah. When if it spins, it wins, right? That's the name of the game. Fusion, on the other hand, burns and doesn't win.
Well, that might be a different conversation. I need to have Reese on and talk about Fusion.
Oh, he's got a new YouTube. I gotta plug his new YouTube. He's got it out there, Mr. Eeyore. And of course, that's what he had to put his name on. So yeah, he's got the setup. He can definitely do these shows now. So you're gonna have to get in touch with him for sure.
Yes, yes,
That's-
absolutely. That's I'm sure the fans would love that as well. But
well, you're not going to get much emotion out of the kid, but you'll get, okay. Okay. Happy face.
that's fine. It's still very entertaining.
Yeah. He's making his own thing. I mean, you got the bubbly Jake, so he had to go different with the brother scheme. Otherwise, you got two guys the same and then just get confused.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's
I just have to be the jerk, and then everybody else just loves him. So
I don't know. I tend to think of you as the Tigger to his Eeyore. So
yes, yeah. I'm bouncy, sure. Yeah.
well,
I mean, why was Tigger looking in the toilet either? Did you know? He was looking for poo.
classic dad joke there.
Yeah, it really is. That's all I got. So that's about as jokey as I get. Sorry.
That is all right, Jake. Well, I'm sure that the fans will look forward to whatever robot you have. Yes, they will. They will.
No. If it's not, I think they love Hydra more than they love me. I'll say that definitely. If they had like JMO drive this bot, it's like, oh, that would be like nobody could ever say boo about them. Just awesome.
Well, it's you never like people have their own likes and dislikes, and it's a mystery.
Yeah, I rub everybody the wrong way.
Well, clearly, if you were that bad, then I probably wouldn't have had you come on the show. So
I don't know. You got to have all the jerks on here.
well, for everybody that's watching, you can surely share your opinions in the comments about this episode. Please do. And like, subscribe, what
Don't do that.
Yeah, all of that stuff.
Go to Mr. Eeyores. Like and subscribe that.
Go
Yeah.
to Mr. Eeyores.
He checks that daily now. Oh, I got one more subscriber. Oh my god.
Well, I have to go subscribe.
And yet he's not
now.
making content for the actual team page, which is like, come on. We need content for ourselves. And he's doing it by himself for his own things. And it's like, now I got to make all the videos.
Yep. Well, I'm gonna have to go subscribe to Mr. Eeyore right now.
Yeah. Don't watch his stuff though. It's a little on the edge.
A little on the edge.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it was banned in the U.S. for like a week, so he had to fight some things. But he's good now. Yeah. I mean, he even put a picture of our teammate on there too, and he calls it his dick pic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. Well, I definitely appreciated you coming on after all of this time.
Oh, we're already done? That was quick. You had no more questions? What?
I mean, we can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
I figured I'd never get you to shut up. Let's go.
I honestly, like, I go wherever the conversation leads, and right now, because of the season, being halfway done, I probably don't have as much to talk about as I do with a full season. So we're kind of,
Yep.
Yeah,
well, we can talk about the upcoming match this week. That is free shipping. Yeah, free shipping got whooped. It's about as simple as that. You won the ground game, and yeah, that was the big difference. I mean, he's been called the greatest driver ever and great, and yeah, he can keep a 4-wheel bot front end pointing at you, but free shipping has not been known to die. Really, it's been known to keep doing these awesome fights and putting it to Megabyte and Tombstone and all those guys. And a flipper finally killed him, which is strange. And then after the fight, he was kind of dead, and I flipped him like again and again. So I forgot to look over to him and like give them the nod, like, "Hey, you want some more?" I just kept going. I don't know. I was kind of food at that point, but it was fun, and I was really sad that the flamethrower broke so soon because I don't get any good like flaming rolling picks, which was the best things that Blacksmith ever got out of the fight was getting tossed and getting his flamethrower actually getting good pictures. So free shipping didn't give me that.
That is a shame, because some of the best matches that I've seen involving free shipping involve a lot of fire,
Yeah.
typically at the hands of Uppercut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was he likes to explode a little bit sometimes. That's no doubt. Not quite as much as JMO against Uppercut too, but he's pretty good with his flamethrower and usually stays running or too much running most times. He gets yelled at for too long a flame. But this match here, I think it conked out after like the first flip. So it's different, I think, when you're getting flipped compared to getting hit with a weapon. It's just a different kind of shock loading that some bots just aren't made to take, or they've never seen a failure because it's different. So landing from 16 feet will do that to you, I guess.
Yeah, that's a pretty decent height there. You could destroy the battle box that way.
I have been told that the floor kind of has some dents in it from the bots heaving them lower, and that's half-inch steel now, so it's actually no joke. Which is there's got to be the G loading when they hit is got to be spiked like above 100, maybe 150 Gs. So it's making everything that's even 1 pound like 100 pounds. So you can't really protect against that.
Yeah. But I mean, I would imagine though, like being able to, probably getting a little bit overzealous with the flipping there, that probably had to feel good to be able to see Hydra, working well and being able
After
to
the
do
Tantrum fight, yeah, I definitely was going to pound somebody into the ground. So I'm sorry, free shipping, Gary. Yeah, it had to happen. Sorry. Yeah.
When you have frustrations that you need to work
Well,
out.
that was the worst is losing the Tantrum when you get the close one and then you lose to set. Or we went against free shipping and it was a close match the very first year we were in, and then to come back and just completely dominate, that was a much better feeling than having that close match and then losing the second one. So that's what I always want to see is I want to improve on the matches, and hopefully if we go up against anybody else that we did in previous seasons that we can improve upon that and really take it to them with a fully functioning Hydra now.
Yeah, that's ideal.
Yeah, last year was limping. That was a lot of limping along, and there were just stupid things happening every time, and there was something different. And so this year we hopefully got everything mostly fixed. Or it's just
Right.
my fault then, though. We lose, not the bot's fault.
I mean, that happens. And I mean, last year you were in a really just interesting position in general, because of how the regular season went, which I mean, like I don't think anybody blames anyone for losing a fight to endgame because that's a tough match no matter
Oh,
who.
I still got my flip. I still have a flip in every match, so I have that going for me yet. No matter what, I still have a flip in every match. Even the Tantrum match, I still have a flip. So there's no, I don't think there's any other flipper that can say that now. So
That I mean, that's pretty good. To at
yeah,
least get the one in.
gotta keep it going. No,
Yeah.
we just got to get the most flips and the highest flip. Well, I already got the highest flip. Technically, Bronco's on the wrong end of that, but the ceiling. If I can hit the ceiling this year, that would be the goal. It's always been the goal. I think we can retire Hydra if we ever did that. So it would be nice to be able to do that at least one of these seasons coming up, because it's tough flipping bots that high. You got to sacrifice a lot of armor and other things that have the actual controls in there. Because if we had just like 5-foot flips, Sub Zero or flip flips. Sorry. Yeah, it would be a lot smaller and simpler package. Then we could armor up and do a lot of things. But when we always push things to extremes, the hydraulic package is just so heavy that it takes away from the rest of the bot quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few compact bots that probably would be pretty easy to flip if you could get under them. So
The compact is the best because then you get to the center of the gravity a lot better. You get a long gangly bot, and then it just kind of flips end over end, and it doesn't give you as high of nice looking clear over the stuff, over the moonshots.
right, exactly. Like I don't see trying to flip a robot like Horizon being
No,
particularly
no, that gangly beast, you would get it like 5 feet, and it would just topple over on itself. So, yeah, anything big. I mean, Rotator actually flew pretty good because it is pretty compact. So when you get underneath him, it's mostly bot weight that's right where you need it to be. So that was actually a really, really weird throw. Because usually I throw people like up in the air, and that one went like far. So that was definitely different when I threw him over the box. So not used to that. Usually you have to like drive the bot away from where they're coming down from. Otherwise they land on top of the bot, which is actually some of the most damage that I've taken over the years is people landing on top of me. So gotta watch out for the cannon fodder.
right. And actually, it's funny that you mentioned that because I don't think that I've ever really actively thought about that as a consequence of tossing someone into the air. That you have to make sure that you get out of the way, or they're going to also land on you.
Yep. Yeah, that's and the top of Hydra is not armored. There's no side of Hydra but the front that's actually armored. So it's I mean, you look at Bite Force though. It had 3 sides that were fully exposed and he won how many times? You don't need a bot that's fully armored as long as you can continue to keep the front end towards them. So that's kind of our philosophy is just armor the good side.
So with the top not being on armored, you're saying that if Shatter managed to come over and not get flipped by you, that they could just get their hammer down in there and it would
I
be
think they could poke at me pretty good, yeah. Or Sawblaze. Sawblaze top, there'd be huge gashes in that. Oh man, that's a fight that I am not looking forward to at all, and that's coming up this season. So, um, hopefully, I don't have to retire one of the frames, because that's what's gonna happen if he gets a hold of me, because he's a control bot and he just pushes until he gets you locked in, and then it's hammer saw, and I don't have armor on the top, so that saw is gonna go right through that tie, no problem.
yes. That is always a concern with Sawblaze,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. Well, that will be an interesting match. I think that's one that I'm looking forward to. That definitely doesn't sound like you're looking forward to, but
No, that's the one I dreaded when I seen that my top 4. And of course, it had to be the last one right before the tournament. So if we ever have something bad happen, we're not going to be ready for the tournament then with a bot ready to go. So I would have rather had the hard fight first. That way, when something goes bad, you're like, okay, we have a little bit of time to fix. But now between all these fights, you get a day, maybe sometimes. Um, you don't have to do double ups in the same day yet. But coming to the tournament, then it's like you might have 2 a day after that point. So you get a little bit of time between fights, but we like to get our fights in early, and then we have more time between them throughout the season because we're out there for so long that it's kind of mind numbing how long we're out there.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's really like it's long, and I think it just feels long because of how busy everything is, and that there's so much to be done in a day. But I mean, it's really a couple of weeks. It's just everything is so compact into that short period of
Yeah,
time.
and there's a lot of teams that spend a lot of time in the pits, and they're working even though they don't necessarily have to because they have a bot work. They get the second one ready to go, and there's a couple teams that you can tell that they're not there all the time, and their bot has the same problems that they always have, so they don't fix it. So some people take a vacation while they're out there. For us and a couple other teams, especially JMO, it's not a vacation out there for those guys. They're stripping down the bot every match, and they're checking things over, and um, then that's what you have to do to be able to win. You got to take out every chance that you can lose, mechanically at least. Sometimes it's still a mind game, which some drivers get used to, some don't, and they fizzle out.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that play into it. And you know, I think it's tough every year. And I mean, to me, like I said, this year seemed like the toughest. I mean, just everybody's tried to amp up their level of competition. And you know, like you mentioned, there's a lot of things that BattleBots can look at to say, is this helping? Is this not helping? And you know, try and figure out those changes for the future.
Yeah, they're trying to put on the best show they can with the bots that they can actually get there that are running. So there's some little good things that happen in the end of the season that we won't spoil, but there's a few particular matchups that everybody wanted to see and they get to see, and it's actually a really, really good show. So can't wait till we get to the last couple episodes.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I'm actually curious to ask about this too, because I swear that I saw you like mention something about this at some point. But you know, have you, you know, obviously you do the BattleBots thing. Do you ever, you know, do or have considered doing some of the other
OnlyFans?
competitions
No, I'm
out?
sorry.
No,
I don't do that.
no, other competitions.
No, actually, no, we don't do other competitions. Not at all. I have been asked to go out to Norwalk Havoc and give that a try. We haven't built small bots for a long time, and sometimes when we get done with BattleBots, it's like we just got to stop talking about BattleBots. Like right now, we're talking about BattleBots, and it's going to be 2 more months of doing this. Sometimes we just get like fed up with bots, and you got to be cut the cord at some point, and then take a little time off, and then it's the next season already. Go figure, huh? So yeah, um, I'm hoping that they can push to like July for the next competition would be nice. Anything later than that, then it's like it's too long away at that point. We already got bots that are running and ready to go, and yeah, except for the new one. There's a new one. Yeah,
Okay.
it's in the works. Weapons are coming back from the heat treater soon. We get to do some testing with that, so we'll get a little something new hopefully in the BattleBot soon.
Well, that should be interesting. I mean, at this point, I'm hoping that it's in July or something because that's what it seems like, and that's what I'm planning on. So I
It's
hope
pretty
that
hot there though.
it is.
Fat guys, and it's hot, not good. And we like to pit outside, so it's like, it's just nasty out all the time. Even though they say it's a dry heat, yeah, we Wisconsin boys don't like that. Not at all.
Yeah, I understand. I've lived in the Midwest my entire life, so and there's a reason for that. I don't like the heat. So
It'd be nice to have the sun, all the time, but yeah, not the heat.
yeah. So should be interesting what happens there, but I guess I'm gonna have to bring a whole bunch of like SPF 70 and water to get through it.
I mean, we have talked about putting an AC unit inside one of our crates, so we had our own little spot inside. So it's been talked about, or like a mobile like pulp mobile with AC unit in the back, so we can just drive like a little rascal around, but it's got like a fully enclosed unit. Yeah, it's been talked about already for sure. It gets way too hot there, and I don't know how those jackpot guys do it, living in that junk all the time.
I guess from what they've said, they're just used to it by now.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I would ever get used to it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, eventually you'd stop sweating, I suppose.
Maybe. But yeah, we'll see. You know, I definitely plan to be there at some point.
Oh, great.
I know.
Are you gonna do like this stuff there the next time?
Probably.
Oh, that way it's like live in the pits.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's my intention. So I think that could be a little bit more fun.
Well, you have all the people in one spot at least. You can corner them a lot easier.
I don't have to corner most people.
Oh, right. Yes, because they like to be on TV. I forgot.
Yeah, but well, this is not TV. This is a little YouTube show.
Yeah, this is the same thing.
It's casual. It's fine.
Oh, okay, casual. Okay, sure.
Well, is there anything else that you would like to share?
No, I'm good. No. I think I said enough stupid things already. We're probably good.